My first guest tonight believes that Putin has brought all this damage upon himself. Robert Service is a historian and fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford. His latest book on Russia, Blood on the Snow, will be published in the fall, and he's joining me now from California. Welcome to the program, Professor Service. So, as we keep the microscope on the fallout from this failed coup, do you think that Putin is strengthened or weakened? Because on the surface of it, Prigozhin is exiled to Belarus, Wagner has been moved or integrated into the military, Prigozhin's enemies in the military are still running the show, and Putin is still firmly installed in the Kremlin.
I think he is successful at the moment in restoring the group around him and subordinate to him. But I think that those team members have been really shaken in their confidence that the man who seemed like their dictator behaved so incompetently over the Prigozhin affair.
When you say incompetently, so do you believe then what Ukrainian and American intelligence is saying, that actually Putin was so stunned that he basically went, silent for a long time, some 36 hours, didn't give any orders. Kremlin strongly denies it. But you must have been, doing, some looking into that yourself. What do you think happened in those hours?
I think that Prigozhin, who was really Putin's puppet, he was Putin's creation, his creature. Putin was taken aback, was astonished that the puppet could turn out to be the puppeteer. And we have to remember that Prigozhin didn't just revolt. He actually said that things were wrong in the governance of Russia. So he broke the code of the Putin team. He said to the world, and to Russia in particular, things are really going badly wrong in the Kremlin. He didn't mention Putin by name, but he did lead an armed unit from Rostov in the south of Russia up towards Moscow before he decided to surrender. So this was a really big, this was like one of the 18th century peasant revolts, except that the peasants who revolted always said that they were against the current leader. Prigozhin took a step back from that, and he must have had an inkling that there were elements in the Russian military who were on his side. He wouldn't have done this without that.
And actually, some of those people, like General Surovikin, etc., they have not been seen since. And there are others also who've sort of, been disappeared, if you like. But again, the elite that are around Putin, who depend on Putin in the structure that he's created for their survival and for the survival of Russia, I suppose, or their view of Russia, do they feel more confident because Putin stared down Prigozhin, or less confident?
Well, the problem is that Prigozhin fulfilled a very useful function. He had an armed unit that could be deniable by Putin as belonging to the Russian state, so that Prigozhin could do things around the world as if he was a private mercenary army. But he wasn't. He was being supplied with equipment and finance by the Kremlin itself. So it's going to be difficult for Putin to unscramble all of this. And the fact that he took so long, hours, to make any kind of reaction to the Prigozhin event indicates what a tangle Putin's got himself into.
Can I just go to the Ukraine, conflict at the moment, the war that Putin started, obviously thinking that he was going to have, a slam dunk in a very short period of time, and that hasn't turned out to be the case, and that's had repercussions all over the place, not least in Russia. But Prigozhin has challenged Putin's rationale, has used the word war instead of whatever the Kremlin says.
Yeah.
And not only that, he actually reminded publicly that President Zelensky was elected not to challenge Putin, but to actually try to bring the war to an end, try to make better relations between Ukraine and Russia. What is that, those reminders? What are they going to say to the Russian people or the Russian elite?
They have a problem. Their only strategy can be to sort of last out, hope for the arrival in power of an American president who is less hostile to Russian pretensions. And obviously they have Donald Trump in mind. They haven't lost all of their resources. They have a huge population. They have an economy that's creaking but is surviving the war. And they have a population that is largely, if not on Putin's side, at least not against him. So there are a lot of pluses that the Russians still have. There are a lot of reasons why Putin can hang out there. And you're right that Zelensky originally was elected on a ballot paper that said, I will try to deal with the Russians and find a peaceful solution. What Putin did, though, last year was unite the Ukrainian nation behind him, where it hadn't been completely united before, and turn Zelensky firmly against him.
Mm-hmm. And again, you have written, certainly in your latest big article in the Financial Times, that part of all of this, well, your thesis is that Putin's brought all this on his own head. How does the relationship with China strengthen or weaken him and Russia in the end? Because at the moment, it looks like, you know, it's a good deal for him. He has a major superpower on his side, and that he can circumvent a lot of the, you know, the pain that's coming from NATO and the West.
I think that's a really important question you asked there. This really goes to the heart of the matter. Years ago, Putin decided that his best geopolitical bet would be to snub the USA and cozy up to China, and that way to do down the USA. Instead of which he could have easily played off China and the USA against each other and sought favors from them because they wanted his favor. China has shown no serious interest in helping Russia in the way that Russia needs at the moment. I mean, just look at that Silk Road that is being built all across old Soviet Central Asia. The Chinese are moving into what Russia thinks of as its own sphere of influence in a big way, and there's nothing that Russia can do about it. It's getting cheaper oil and gas from Russia than at the world market price. Russia is paying a huge financial and geopolitical price for this Russian president, Vladimir Putin.